Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Gretchen Van Esselston, and I am the Director of Education here at the Specialty Food Association. We're so pleased to welcome you to this webinar in our Booth Camp series, which is designed to help people get ready for the next trade show you'll be exhibiting at, which for most of you will be the Winter Fancy Food Show 2025 in Las Vegas in January. We're all getting really excited for that. So just a little housekeeping, a recording of this presentation will be available along with any slides, which really are just a couple of display slides, in your Managed Purchases section of your SFA Learning Center later today. If you have any general questions, you can always reach us at education@specialtyfood.com. And if you have questions during the webinar for our presenters, please use that Q&A function on your Zoom toolbar, and we'll get to some questions at the end. So we have a great lineup today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our moderator, and she'll go ahead and introduce our guests. So again, welcome and thank you. So now please take it away, Carol Ortenberg.
Hi, everyone. As Gretchen just said, I'm Carol Ortenberg. I'm excited for today's webinar. Been to a lot of trade shows. We have two great experts here with a lot of information to share, so I'll jump right into it. But as a quick introduction to myself, I'll be playing double duty today, moderating. But then also, I've spent the last 10 years on the media side of CPG, first as the editor of Nosh.com, and now running my own publication and advising brands on a number of things, including working with the media. Before that, I spent time on the brand side and the retail side. So I really appreciate how hard you guys work at the shows and how much effort goes into preparing for them in the marathon that is those couple of days. And we want to make sure you have a great experience at the Winter Fancy Food Show. So with that, let's get to our panelists. Twee, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself and as part of that, share a memorable experience from a trade show?
Hey, sounds
Doesn't have to
good.
be educational, just memorable.
Okay, yes. So I'm Twee Nguyen. I'm a category manager at Thrive. I started at Thrive about 2.5 years ago to launch the refrigerated pilot, and now I manage the frozen food category as well. And I've been in the industry for probably over 14 years, just working various aspects, but most of my experience is in e-commerce, and I love trade shows. So my most memorable experience is probably my first trade show at, I think it was actually the Winter Fancy Food Show in SF back in like 2014. New to the industry, brand new to trade shows. I walked in, there was so much food everywhere. I think I ate everything, every sample that was offered to me. Did not say no, did not know how to say no. I still don't really know how to say no. Working on that, but I think it was memorable because I ate so much. I got a little sick, but it was so memorable that I was like, I need to stay in this industry because there's so many people here that love food that just we're all here together. And yeah, it started my love for the grocery like career. So yes, happy to be here.
And Jack, how about you?
So I go back to about 1990. I was on the team that launched Terra Chips back then, and my first Winter Fancy Food Show was in January of 1992. I've been doing shows pretty much nonstop since then, both on the teams that started Alexia Foods as well as Saffron Road Foods. So definitely some frozen experience in there as well, which brings a little extra fun into the game for preparation, and both preparation for the show and also at the show. And my most memorable, one of the things that really sticks with me to this day is at that first show, getting an order for 25 cases of Terra chips and telling the buyer, who was Scott Silverman at Rice Epicurean Market, that was too much, and we couldn't ship him that much product at one time, nor did he want that much product at one time because of the way that we would ship. And that's an important lesson that I went through at Terra Chips, is managing my production and managing the production that we had available to us. We can talk about that a little later, perhaps.
Jack, how many trade shows do you think you've been to at this point?
Close to 100, if not a little more than 100. That's as an exhibitor, because at several years it was 4 per year, at a minimum, and I'm not even counting distributor shows because they don't really. That's a whole separate thing as well.
Well, I think my most memorable was also my first fancy food show. I wasn't even in the industry, and remember meeting the founder of Project Seven, and it just was like, "What is this world? It's amazing." Also, ate way too much twee, so I feel you on there. And Rivals, almost the time I watched Jessica Simpson walk up to a booth to try ice cream, and the CEO had no idea who she was.
Oh,
It was
wow.
amazing. It was wonderful. So Jack, you talked about managing expectations. Let's start with preparing for trade shows. You know, we referenced eating a little too much. So how do you think about samples, and how do you advise brands to think about how many samples to bring with them?
So the first thing I would say is you never want to run out of samples. That's so you need to work backwards from that. And that almost always means you're probably going to end up with too much at the end because you're never going to nail it right on the head. And if you don't, and you don't run out, that means you have too much. And just accept that that's going to be the case. If you have packaged food, there's always a donation aspect at the end of the show where you can make sure your food's not going to get wasted. It's probably too expensive to send it back. For the winter show, which is different than every show has its own vibe, we suggest around 300 individual samples per day. There's also going to be a cadence, and show days are changing. Used to always be that the first day was bigger and then it would start to taper off each day after that. A couple of years I've seen recently where the second day, the Monday of the fancy food show, is actually bigger in terms of the amount of sampling and volume, certainly in terms of maybe the quality of the folks that are coming by. But the last day, there'll definitely be a little bit of a taper off. That doesn't mean that there aren't important people walking the floor, and it's actually an opportunity for some of your best conversations. So around that 300 samples, and we'll talk more about that as well in terms of samples later, and make sure you present them well and keep them fresh.
Jack, you've had a lot of interesting products like, Saffron Road, perishable items. What do you suggest if your product is not like a chip that you can just grab and go? Like you have a salad dressing or a sauce. Do you need to bring anything else with you to be ready to sample those items?
I think you have to do the hard work, and you have to show the folks walking around how a consumer will be using them in their home. And so if it is a salad dressing, something like a salad that they can taste it on, little individual samples of a salad, something along those ways. I do see people always, a lot of times with things like that, using a neutral bread or cracker or something like that as a mechanism by which to sample it. But even we have simmer sauces at Saffron Road, and we will always cook them up. We'll have a skillet out there. That aroma, and so one thing to keep in mind at the Fancy Food show, people think there's a lot of chocolate. There is a lot of chocolate, but there is a lot of diversity. But there's a lot of sweet items. If you have a good savory item, it's excellent, because people are hungry for quote unquote real food all the time while they're sampling all these other goodies. So it's a great opportunity for you to get an organic sample, like somebody actually wants to just come eat regular food as opposed to something that's sweet, and so you can have that experience with folks as opposed to having to be aggressive to get them to try it.
Twee, any smart sampling tactics you've seen, or as you're walking, looking at frozen products, advice on getting ready to prepare those at the show floor?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I totally agree with Jack. I feel like there are a lot of sweet things at the show. So when there's like a hot food booth, like I am immediately gravitated towards that, especially if there's a great smell coming from that booth. So I think having fresh samples is very, very important. There's been times when I've gone up to a booth, I've been really excited about trying something, and the samples are like stale, or they've been sitting under the warmer for too long. So I think having that rotated is important. It's also important. I've also seen that like sometimes I'm going to a booth and they see my badge, they know that where I'm from, and then they're like, oh, let me get you a fresh sample. So they bring me something that's not, out already. And I think that's nice to be treated that way, but I feel like you never know who's going to walk up to your booth and who's going to grab a sample without you like seeing. So I think making sure that there's always a freshly rotated sample is important, because yeah, everyone deserves a hot sample.
I'd also say definitely review any health and safety guidelines. Make sure you have whatever you need in terms of, hand washing or preparation tools at your booth. I've seen brands who aren't able to sample at all until they make a Target run because they forgot that part of the list. And then additionally, think about other partnerships you might be able to do in advance. So Jack, for example, reference, like a sauce. If you have a pasta sauce, maybe there's a noodle brand nearby that you can like trade noodles for to have at your booth, and you give them some sauce. You can have a nice partnership where you guys are kind of both promoting each other, but creating a bigger experience.
I love that. I think it's like
Yep.
kind of like all the brands just working together, and just like supporting each other. I love it when, two booths together are like sampling their each other's products. So great tip, Carol.
I will say, if you do that though, make sure the other booth is able to answer a few basic questions, give them a one sheet in advance about your product, and then also make sure they know your booth number. So if someone says, wow, I really love this sauce, you can say, go over to, booth 301. I'm sure they'd love to chat with you. You want to really build out that relationship.
Hmm.
So Twee, you talked about getting special treatment because you're a buyer sometimes. Do you like when brands reach out to you in advance as a buyer? What sort of pre-show communication are you looking for?
Yeah, I will say my inbox is very full. I'm sure everyone's is, but I do actually appreciate like a reach out. So I might not be able to respond right away, but like when I see it in my inbox, it actually keeps it top of mind, so that when I am walking the show, I'm like, oh, they reached out to me. Let me like, show my like say hi and something, because I need to respond to all my emails eventually. So it's nice. I know it just keeps them top of mind for me, and I think it means that they did their research, and they know what retailers they want to reach out to.
What shows, besides the email itself, what shows that they've done their research?
Well, it shows that they've done the research if like they're pitching a product that actually fits on the market, like if they do know that we sell like non-GMO products. We're more like naturally focused. So if they're reaching out to me and they don't have those certifications, or they don't their ingredients just don't match our standards, I think that shows that they haven't done their research. So yeah, I think we talked about that, Jack, just knowing who your retailer is, like where your product fits in, is really important as part of show preparation.
Do you like to receive any materials in advance, like sales sheets or things like that? Do you like to set up meetings in advance?
I don't set up any meetings in advance unless I'm already working with that retailer and we're talking through like the business. But I kind of just like to walk the show organically. Maybe I'll be like, oh, I'll see you at your booth around lunchtime or something. I just try to keep it casual, because you never know what's going to come up at the show. You could be pulled into a conversation that could like last an hour. So I try not to have any like tight timelines for myself.
Jack, how about yourself? What do you recommend in reaching out to buyers pre-show?
Uh, typically, I typically haven't done a lot of cold calling ever, meaning just a cold, unless I have a white whale, which is that retailer I'm absolutely trying to get into, and at that point, there's almost nothing that I won't do that keeps me above board, ethically and morally. I'll go all in on that. In terms of, but I appreciate recently with some of the things I've been doing, the way that people have reached out to me has been very respectful, either a quick direct message in LinkedIn or something like that. Not a long selling, love to see, I see you're going to be at the show, love to see you, stop by my booth, that kind of thing. Since I've never been a buyer, it's really impressive to me. I feel like, oh wow, that's unique. But one thing that I think in terms of preparation is to really know, certainly you want to talk to every retailer that you can, even if it's just to get their views on your product and what they think about your product. But the ones that you really want to be in, you got to know kind of like the back of your hand, where their stores are, how if they were to buy from you, how would they get that product? What distributors do they work with? That sort of thing, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time necessarily talking about that. And you've hopefully already done your work. You could say to Twee, I know that you do a lot of business with UNFI. Is that what you request? Is there a different way that we could do, and go straight to that kind of conversation? Because then you're already talking about her buying the product as opposed to if she can buy the product. And it's just a much more positive conversation in that regard.
Jack, you gave a bunch of great information, so I want to unpack that a little bit. Why don't you cold email?
It's just I've been doing sales for a long time, and I'm just, that's not in my nature.
Okay.
And to do that, I have been fortunate to have really good products, and typically if I'm on the floor, I'm going to get to see who I want to see in one way or another. I do stalk the floor sometimes, and I go out that way as well. That's not beneath me, because when it's on the show floor, again, if it's that buyer that I really want to see, I want to do that. But I talk to enough buyers. I know that what their inboxes are like. I know what their voicemails used to be like back in the day before there was emails. And it's just not who I am as a salesperson.
And so you said you don't cold email new buyers. What about existing retailers? Do you reach out to them or advise reaching out to them?
Oh, for sure. Especially if it's ones that we still haven't gotten into. All the ones that, if I have something that I know I want to talk to them about at the show, and it's not, sometimes there's really not a lot. Depending on the new items, maybe they've already seen the new items, and I don't really have that much to talk to them about at the show. I know their time is of essence. So I will maybe let that go, and I'll focus on the meetings that I really want to have at the show. And I know that they're not going to set an appointment with me, but just get the pertinent information and why it is that I want to see them at the show, and show them.
I'd add, from the journalist point of view, like Twee, my inbox is blowing up prior to shows. I think a couple things you can do that help you get ahead. First of all, put in the subject line that you're talking about the show. So I like, or at the least in the body of the email, so I can just search my email fancy food and get everything all at once. I also find a lot of brands are like, I'm going to wait until the week before, 3 days before to reach out. At that point, it's just a disaster in there. So reach out as early as you can to a journalist. A term that some folks don't know is embargo. You don't need to use this term, but say you're launching something really brand new, or you have a celebrity you're launching a partnership with. What you can do, if it is time gated, is reach out to a journalist and say, hey, I've got some news. It's embargoed until Monday, the 10th at 3 p.m. But if you agree to that, we can talk about it now. And what that allows you to do is have that conversation in advance with the journalist, have them decide if they want to do an interview, have the story ready. And then once you're ready to announce that, everything's ready to just kind of hit go. I also kind of think about stage, how big is your news and being really honest with yourself. If you're, a chocolate company and you're launching a new caramel chocolate, right? That may not get as much coverage as the chocolate company who's announcing, hey, we just got into Whole Foods nationwide, or we just raised some money, that are kind of like bigger news. So bigger news will get covered closer to the show. Things like new flavors, especially if you can't show how it moves the business forward, like this is the first time we've done a savory flavor, whatever, that you want to get out in advance. And also I'd add, I hope buyers like Twee are reading that in advance and kind of saying, oh, I'm gonna plan for my show. That's interesting. I want to stop by. Do you like Twee? I guess I'm making an assumption. Do you like look on Instagram what brands are teasing, LinkedIn, or is your life just so chaotic? It's like, I'm just gonna walk the show.
Well, I mean, I do a lot of preparation before the show actually because I am excited about. I want to make the most of it. We're only there for a few days, so I want to make sure I'm using up my time wisely. So in terms of like how I'm preparing, first I'll kind of like check out who's exhibiting, right? And then pick out my favorites, either brands that we've worked with before or brands that I have my eye on. And then I'll go on to like their LinkedIn, I'll go on to their Instagram, I'll go onto their website, although the new products probably aren't on the website yet, but I'll do my research to see if there's anything that I like really want to check out before the show. I also really appreciate when brands that I do work with, they reach out to me, they email me and let me know where they're going to be at the show and what products they're sampling or what's new, what's coming, what I should look out for, because then I'll definitely make a point to stop by their booth and try it out. But yes, I do my preparation before the show.
I would expect nothing less from you. Well, let's jump. Now you're at the show. Someone walks up to your booth. Jack, what do you do?
Well, so I think more likely now, maybe somebody walks up to my booth because I've done a great job of preparing food and a display that gets their attention, and they're going to walk up to the booth because of that. And they'll see that it's something unique and different. Doesn't have to be, for the longest time, well into every company's career life history that I was at, we had very straightforward booth. Only at towards the end of my time at Saffron Road did we have a big, what would be called a professional booth. But still the imagery is important.
One year, I think you guys had a booth that was like nothing, right? Like you were making a statement. You literally had a booth with no samples at it.
So folks I know remember, we could dive off a second here. I thought it was an important statement at that time. In March of 2022, I think is correct, is the first Expo West. And it was also when we were actually going through a much more, and we as an industry, a much more significant supply chain problem than we did at the very beginning of COVID. Because the very beginning of COVID was only really about the distributors catching up. The second supply chain was much more about products. That's when everything started to hit the fan, and people just couldn't make enough product for various reasons. There was a second wave, workers were sick, items weren't available, you didn't have your full ingredient deck. How are you going to make food if you don't have your full recipe? All these sorts of things. And we were, at that point, we had been 99.5% in stock the entire time through COVID, including then. And the point was, hey, we have more important things to do with our money, which is to put food on your shelves and in your customers' freezers, than to have a fancy booth here at the show. And I would actually point out, I'd say, that's a really nice booth up the way. What's their fulfillment rate right now? And I knew what their fulfillment rate was. And that showed that where our heart was in the business and what we really cared about, especially at that time, which I consider was a national emergency. and having healthy food that people could eat and buy, I think was really important to do, and not just have it be the big guys, although they were also some of the ones that were having anyway. You
I
could
just wanted
tell it
to
was a
bring it up because I
passionate
thought it
issue
was,
for me.
yeah, I thought it was a really creative way to get, when you said displays and stuff, it was a really creative way to get people to come up and engage with you.
We did have a little video screen that explained what was going on at the same time. That was about it. It was chairs and a video screen and a couple of tables, no food or anything.
I saw one brand had cardboard cutouts that year too, I think, at their
Mhm.
booth. But okay, so you get someone to, I think you were saying, your booth because
Yes,
um
because of the display. But a lot of times even that doesn't work, and you, for lack of a better description, you kind of got to be a carnival barker. Some people go out in the aisle, and that's kind of frowned upon. A lot of, if you're new and you're in a pavilion type thing, it's really, you really can't get into the aisle in a way, and you have to grab people's attention, try to make eye contact, and your quick little pitch, whatever it is, whatever the things are, for example, that are on your label or that you already know that you talk about a lot. If you're the first this, or you're the thing that really makes you unique and why they should step over to taste your product. This is something that will be different for every single person. This conversation, people call it a pitch. That's is what it is. This show, every show, is a great opportunity to do that, hopefully hundreds of times. And it will evolve over time as well. You'll learn what works better. Sometimes you'll even learn what works better for women than men, and vice versa. And that sort of and there's no standard ever. It's always evolving. The market's always evolving, and being out at a show is the best place to really understand what the temperature is of the buyers. You get them over, you get some food in them, you see what's on their badge, and start having that informed decision for them. A lot of times it'll be on the badge and you don't even know where they are. Where they, if you don't know the store, sometimes it says, and you want to confirm, oh, so you're based in Idaho. And then you already know more about them in terms of what the distribution, you ask them who their distributor is if you don't know, so that you're really getting to the meat of the conversation. Again, like, you're already working towards an order, which might not happen at that show, but you're working towards how you can get them product. And obviously talking about your product at the same time, why they like it. If they liked it, oh, that's interesting. Oh, you didn't like this flavor. Well, let's try this one because you might like it's a little sweeter or something like that. So just engaging them and being very aware of their time, that you're not going to speak quite as long maybe as I even am at this webinar. Right?
Jack, I mean, you mentioned looking at their badge. Okay, let's talk about badge scanning, where you like do the, look down, who are you? My face is up here, not my badge. How do you kind of approach that in a way that doesn't feel let's say off-putting or rude, but still gets you the information you kind of need to know as a brand?
I typically acknowledge it. And kind of, I already said it. I look at the badge, I said, I see you're with. The other important thing is what it never says on the badge, which, because it's too complicated, is if it's a larger retailer, are you in the buying department? Number one, really important, because there's going to be retailer people that are in marketing at retailers and that sort of thing. And the conversation you have with them is going to be very different. And then if they are in the buying department, what category do they buy? That shouldn't be a secret. I mean, it shouldn't be something that someone's uncomfortable talking about. And then you can have the most direct conversation with them that is impactful to them and uses their time the best.
Jack, I feel like you are like the perfect example of what a retailer who they want to talk to when they come to a booth. Like, you know all the answers, you know the best approach, because that sounds like how I would want to be approached as a buyer, for sure.
What do you not want to have happen when you approach a booth? Like, what are some things that would be a turn off?
And it's for me or for Jack?
Yeah, oh, for you, Twee, sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. What would I not want? Well, I feel like I want to be treated like a human. So even if I'm not, if even if they don't know the retailer that I'm at, they don't know anything about Thrive Market, just like a sense of curiosity, like what Jack said, asking them, "Are you in the buying department? Oh, I see you're with Thrive. Is that a, where are you based?" Like just asking those questions before you can determine if you're going to have a longer conversation or if you're going to be like, "Well, thanks for trying this, but thanks for trying the samples," so that I think just being treated like having a conversation is what I'd like. And
A
then
human,
just
what
being
are
a
you
human,
talking
right?
about?
I'm a nice person. I want to have a conversation. What else? Yeah, what I really don't love is when I'm at a booth and they don't know anything about their products. It's happened many times before, and I think it's tough because you need to use the bathroom. Salespeople need to leave the booth at some point. But it's when you leave, I think having someone there who knows the basics of your brand is important because there's been many times I remember just asking questions like, "Are you non-GMO certified? Where are your ingredients coming from?" Just the most basic questions, and they had no idea, or they'd say something like, "We use the best ingredients," and I'm like, "Okay, cool, but like, where are they from? Are they
Nobody says they use
certified?"
the worst ingredients. That's not a thing.
No, right? But then I would ask a little deeper, and then it's just, "But we use the best ingredients. All our ingredients are sourced in from great places." Just the most general statement, and that to me is just one of the biggest turnoffs for a brand, like not knowing where your ingredients are coming from.
I also, on the ingredient note, there are definitely a lot of people who walk the show that have allergies, and I've seen folks ask a brand, "Hey, are there tree nuts in this or whatnot?" And the person answering cannot share that information. So definitely on the ingredient side, also have your allergen statements like ready to go. But Jack, when you got this team at a booth and the person that's VP of sales has to go eat lunch or use the restroom, how do you kind of do that handoff? What should you do to make sure you've got that consistency?
Well, first, I'll give you a video demonstration of something not to do, and that's this. Looking at your phone
Yeah.
is not. Hey, and guess what? These shows do happen during work days for the rest of the world, and if you have to do that, then that's exactly what Carol said. Step away at a minimum to the back of the booth so you're not right on the aisle as people are coming up if you do have to check your phone, which I get you have to do. So everyone, this comes from the time that I've been in the business, where there used to be a time where we would take hundreds of sell sheets to a show, physical thing that you would hand out to folks that nobody wants now because it's paper. Nobody wants paper. They all want digital and that sort of thing, which is fine. But that digital sell sheet should be more or less everything plus a lot of statistics and uh, dimensions and so forth, but all the top line things that you want to say about your product. And on that, you would go over that with anybody that's in your booth. It goes right down. Certainly, all the certifications are there. All the key points that are basically blown out from the packaging that you have that you're really highlighting in your sell sheet, and then everything else that would be there as well. Having a few, you never know. I still at every show, and this is a good thing when a buyer says, "Oh, I have to actually have a physical one to do setup," where they want to scan the UPC code, for example, or something like that. So always, we still, I mean, but literally, we would send, and we would have tables out front of them. You got to still have that digital sell sheet as part of your follow up, for example, that you want to have ready to send out.
I'd add too that I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer as long as you can add, but so and so here at the booth probably has the answer. Or let me take your card. I'll make sure someone follows up and then make sure that follow up happens. Like, yes, it's great if everyone is prepared, but also showing that the team works well together can be a way forward. Twee, do you like paper sales sheets? What about like swag? Do you want lanyard pins or stickers or things like that?
Um, I think it's all depending on the brand and how good the swag looks and how good the sell sheet looks, honestly. So with sell sheets, I do like taking sell sheets, but it's hard to say because I'll take it for the brands that I'm really, really excited about or interested in. So it's hard for me to say like only the good brands should have sell sheets, you know. So I think what Jack's approach is having both, you know, having a really good sell sheet, but having like access to the digital sell sheet is really important. So because I know a lot of my CMs they don't take sell sheets, but I'm the one who takes them. Um, in terms of swag, there's I just feel like there's so much stuff in this world. So I think I'm just being more cognizant about the swag that I'm taking and what's useful. So I don't love just plastic things. You know, I know that's really hard as a brand. Like you want your brand to get out there in all ways and forms, but I think for me, the best kind of swag is something that maybe is not available to everyone, like a sweater or like you know, a fun t-shirt, but that's I know you can't give everyone a sweater. So I don't know if I gave the best answer, but I do love swag. I just want it to be like something very useful. No.
I did have one booth that offered journalists and buyers, they were like, we'll send you a sweater, but we need your email address so we can follow up with you after. A good way to sometimes have that follow through. I also would say, like, on the press side, I never want a physical press release ever.
Hmm.
Even if I say, hey, I'm working on a story, it's going to run tomorrow. Just take down my email and make sure you send it to me. It's a lot easier to, you know, copy things from a press release, grab assets from an email. If you do have a PR agency, you're welcome to like give me the card for your PR agency, but make sure your brand is on there too, because oftentimes I'll end a show and I've got all these PR agency cards, but I have no memory of who they worked with at all, which can be kind of tricky to keep that all in mind. Tweed, do you take business cards? Like, are you okay? So
I take business cards. I also appreciate like a quick follow-up. So it's just like in my inbox because I'll probably lose the business card, honestly. But I also love I love like what is it, those show coupons that are just retailer coupons. I
wait,
love
tell us
that as a
more for folks who
yeah,
don't know.
you know, it's just like the manufacturer's coupons that you could just pass out and then you can go to the store and you can redeem it yourself. Because I think that's really easy to take in like the refrigerated world or the frozen world. It's really expensive to ship samples, and I get that. So sometimes I just appreciate if they just have that manufacturer's coupon for me. Because I also know that like shipping samples requires a lot of styrofoam and a lot of dry ice, and I try to want to reduce that as much as I can.
Yeah,
Here.
that's a great point. And those, but even those coupons for smaller brands, those coupons are very difficult to have as well. So that's a really tough point when you're starting out with a frozen or refrigerated, is that balance of shipping them and making sure that it's really, and you really want to make sure that the buyer is expecting them when you
Hmm.
send them, because there's nothing worse than having a frozen sample sent to someone that's not there and have it sit for 2 days and then the whole thing is a waste.
Yeah, or like they don't know it, and their freezer is currently filled to the brim with lots of samples. I'm speaking from experience. I have no space right
Mm-hmm.
now for samples, so I appreciate when buyers or when brands just gives me a heads up, or they ask me like when's the best time to send samples as well.
Awesome. Well, and I'll remind folks that we are taking questions through the webinar chat. So we're covering a lot, but if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in there, and I am monitoring that and adding those into our panelists. Um, you know, I would say also from a media side, just like retail side, do a little research in advance. You can get the media list from the SFA in advance. They do an amazing job with that. There is a press room as well. Kind of prep, like who's approaching your booth. Is this a pay to play influencer that's you want to treat more like a service provider and hand off to maybe like a marketing person? Is this a business journalist who wants kind of more inside baseball stuff? Like, hey, we just got distribution in these retailers. Is it a consumer publication like The Kitchen? I know I see them cover the fancy food show a lot. Are they looking for more, hey, the SFA told us the hot honey's really popular right now. We're looking for hot honey products. So just prep that side as well.
Can I want to get on that. I want to just
Yeah.
add additional, when we're talking about the variety of people that could be coming up to your booth. So let's keep in mind, we're at a food show, and I've never met someone, and this includes even Kate Moss, that doesn't eat food. Okay, so no matter who you are, you eat food. There is no one at a trade show that isn't a potential customer for you. And you need to treat them all that way. Doesn't mean you have to treat them exactly the same, but if you want to sell your food in other retailer stores, their customers have to want it. And so especially those are the folks that you want to find out where they live, because maybe you already have a store that is available where they live, and you can send them to that store even if you don't have a coupon. And having something that you can hand out with your product's name on it, that doesn't have to be plastic, and maybe it is just a small sheet or something like that, that gets that name to go home with them, because lots going on in their head at the show. Because also a lot of people at the show, they're in the food business. So typically they probably go back and talk to their friends and talk about the things they found at the show. And this is old school viral, and they are real influencers because their friends know they're in the food business. So they probably pay a little more attention to who and what they are. I'm always flattered when someone wants to come try my food, and even if they want to come back and try more of it, because what does that mean? It means I have a good product that people like to eat. And I cannot, hearing people gripe about folks that just come up to eat at their booth at a show, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I'd love to build off
recommend-
that too after Carol. Go for
Oh,
it.
I was going to say, I do recommend though, like taping down the stuff that needs to not leave your
That's
booth.
different. Taking is
Okay.
different. Taking is different.
Yeah.
Yes, because you will get some folks who come up who sample things they shouldn't, and so if it's important, definitely make sure it's attached to the booth somehow. But everybody is an influencer. And I'd also say you can even use trade shows, just think of it as market research, right? Everybody who comes up,
sure.
especially if you have a new flavor, hey, what do you think of this? Oh, we're playing with the spice level. Do you think it could be spicier? Do you think it's too spicy? If nothing else, it also makes them feel kind of special that you want their input. But Twee, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was going to say that, Jeff's right. Everyone's a customer, right? At Thrive, we have a lot of our teams that go to the shows, not just in the buying department. Like we have our marketing team, we have some ops people, like a lot of different people. So even if they're not in the buying department, they still recommend things to me. Like I've had, coworkers, they Slack me if they like something really, like if there's something that they have that was really good, and they're telling me to like go visit their booth before the show ends. And I love that, because it's like someone's already kind of doing the research for me. And I trust, everyone at Thrive, like we all have great palates. So if they are recommending to me, then I will definitely make a point to stop by the booth.
Twee and I even send each other products back and forth. She got me hooked on some Thai meal kits. I have some dumplings I need to send you
Yes.
pictures of. So you never know who's connected to who. And you want them to have that great experience at your booth. So I'm trying to kind of keep this webinar divided into equally before, during, and after. So show ends. What do you do? How do you I guess let's break that down further. Sorry. Show ends. Jack, what do you do like in the immediate next hours? What's the most important thing to knock off your to-do list right away?
Well, catching my flight would be
Okay.
but that would certainly be the number one thing. And often on a West Coast show, that's a really important thing because it could be a little bit later that night to get home the next morning. So I would go back and say part of my preparation is to understand what the follow-up mechanism is going to be and have something ready to go, like the body of a kind of a template email that, again, I'm going to personalize, but still has all those key points, because this is all about reinforcing. Follow-up is all about reinforcing and moving to that next step, so that that's kind of ready to go. And I don't have to rewrite a whole new email when I'm sitting at the airport. I can just add 3 sentences to it, and then I've got a whole email that's there to go next, asking for next steps. When can I send samples? That sort of thing is, that's it. In my head, I typically will know what the key follow-ups are going to be, and some of them are going to be just much more basic sort of follow-ups that go out, and then those hopefully 5 to 10 really key follow-ups. And again, I hopefully paid attention when I was speaking to them at the booth, and they might be going on vacation for a couple of days after the show and staying out there. And if that's the case, I'm not sending them an email right away after the show. Listening to buyers is a lost art sometimes, and crafting what you send to them that fits into what they need is one of the key things that you can do to ensure your success.
I think take notes as buyers or journalists approach your booth. Even if they say something like, I'm going on vacation to Turkey, maybe you start your next email with, hey, I hope
Exactly.
you had a great time when you went to Turkey. That immediately shows you've been paying attention. And if you're paying attention to a little detail like that, you're probably paying attention to the big details as well. So take that time at the show and make notes. But Jack, say you buyers not going on vacation. Are you reaching out the next day or give them some breathing room?
Well, again, it depends on the conversation. A lot of times, perhaps there's a review coming up, and that timeliness is absolutely key and important. Typically, sooner than later, for anyone of that I've had an important conversation with that needs follow up, because it's going to get busy regardless, and from show follow up that's happening. And I would rather be on the front end of that. That doesn't mean that I might not have to send another one in a week or so as another follow up.
Twee, when do you like to see brands follow up with you?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. Like if I'm at the booth and we're having a great conversation, and maybe there's a question that I asked and they don't know the answer to, like sometimes I appreciate just checking out my email as I'm walking away and they have that answer. They've sent me that follow-up already. So that's one way to do it. Just depends. But if I just have a regular conversation and regular interaction, I actually appreciate a follow-up maybe like a week past the event, maybe 3 to 5 days past the event, because we're all traveling, we're catching up on our own inboxes, like things can get lost. But once I'm like back at the show, I'm back in my routine, back on that Monday or whatever, and I'm ready to look at my inbox, then things coming in will be top of mind for me
And
as
that can
well.
be a great thing to ask a buyer, even as a question.
Yeah.
Hey, when would you like me to follow up with you? What would be a good time to reach out?
Yeah. Yeah. And I usually say, give me a couple of days. Like, I need to just get some respite a little bit.
And to Jack's point, I think as well, with preparation, not only is it having the templates, but also setting up the hierarchy in your company of who is going to respond to what. So let's be honest, you're going to have buyers, you're going to have journalists, you're going to have suppliers, brokers. Not all of those emails should come from the same person. Have a plan, make a note. Some brands will do like color-coded highlighters of who should reach out, things like that. But when brands do reach out, Twee, what do you like to be in the email? Like, do you want a sales sheet attached? Do you want an offer for samples? What do you like to see?
Yeah, I do like that personal touch of like, following up on something we may have talked about in the conversation. I like sales sheets. I like having them digital so I could just like quickly look through them and make sure like this is a good fit. I also like someone offering to send samples, but does not just like assuming that like I can send them right away or something. So just like getting a sense of what my schedule is before they like send samples. Also getting a asking for the calendar review schedule if that's if we have one, or if they're not if they know I'm not the right buyer, they know I'm not they're managing their category, asking me to connect them, making a warm intro to like someone who is on my team. I think that's just like knowing who they're talking to is important, and knowing like if I'm relevant to their brand.
Okay. And what format one of the questions we got was, do you like a digital sales sheet to be in? Is it just like a PDF? There are definitely programs that allow you to make kind of more robust options. Do you like a page on the website? How do you like it?
Oh, I think that just a simple PDF works that has UPCs, has all the photos, has like I like something with a little bit more data as well. So like a more like a intricate sales sheet possibly that shows you like what the trends are or something, or even like a short little PowerPoint or PDF presentation works for me.
Okay, great.
I would add one thing into that, which is what we did at Saffron Road is we have a whole page of sell sheets and images, which you'll need down the road and that sort of thing, which is in one place. Rather than sending that necessarily the sheet itself, I will send the link to that page, because that also then gets the buyer on my website, as opposed to, and they can download it right away when they're there. They can find the sell sheet and it's right there. But other assets that we have and other things as well. And also, you're not sending a 1 megabyte email either, or 12 or however big they are.
That's a good point.
I will say that is something also on the journalist side, like send a link to a Dropbox or a page on your website where you've got images of all the products, maybe your last 2 press releases and a press contact. That's always super helpful to have. One other question that came in is, what about packaging for products that don't exist yet? What do you want to see at the booth, and what like if you don't have a finalized packaging, rendering, things like that, does that, should you send that out to the buyer afterwards, things like that?
Like if it's a brand new product that they're not
Brand new
ready to
product
sell.
that like maybe you don't have a physical product package
Yeah.
for.
Well, I think a rendering at the booth would be very important, so we could just get a sense of what it's going to look like. But in terms of like a follow-up, the mock-up of it, like sending me a image of it, and then saying like, when this is ready, I'd love to send you samples, like just kind of like prepping me for that. It's good. And just I'm a very visual person, so I do need to see something before I can really evaluate it.
Okay. And Jack, you finish the show, you send out all these emails, you're going to hear back from every single person you emailed, right?
Totally.
No.
So what sort of expectations should you have then for hearing back? And like, should you email again and again and again? Like how do you kind of set that for your team?
It depends on the retailer and where they fit into my plans. There are some that, yeah, I won't, not every single one that I didn't hear back from, but there will be some that will be on a regular cadence and a different cadence with me, including if my brokers, to get my broker involved in a way. It's just, I can tell you some of those stories if you see me at the Fancy Food Show. I love to talk about the 2.5-year quest I had to get into Gelson's when I was with Terra Chips, and it just had to happen. Same with Sutton Place Gourmet, and a product like, look, Terra Chips in the day, there wasn't anything more unique than that. We still had trouble getting into retailers. There's retailers that we couldn't get into. That's going to happen. you determine how it happens, and just buyers change, and relationships are super important, whether it's with brokers and, as Twee said, other people that work at the retailer and that sort of thing. There's no one right way. There's a lot of different right ways together that will probably end up being successful.
I think also like it could be something about it being the right product but not the right time. So I do appreciate brands that are persistent but not annoying, right? So checking in maybe once a month, once every 2 months, like letting me know like, oh, about their progress, or like what retailers they've gotten into since. And sometimes they'll catch me at just the right time where I'm like, oh, actually we do really need this product. And if they're at the top of my inbox, like I'll be thinking about them. But yes, the important thing is to not be annoying.
How do
And
you
to
tell
but
if you're annoying a buyer?
I I think that just not having I feel like the constant emails is really annoying. So like every week or something, like that is a lot. And also like I will respond to a brand eventually. So just like, and I'll let them know like, hey, I'm reviewing this in a few months, check back with me. So just like noting when the review schedule is, or when I'm looking to like look into their brand, is important as well. Yeah, but
I
it's
would
hard. You have to be personable. I don't know.
exactly. That's what I was
Yeah.
going to say. Finding, maybe not in everyone, but finding humor based on our shared humanity
Yes.
is, in terms of how things work, is typically a great way to go.
Jack, how would you walk away from a show and decide, this was a really great show for Terra Chips or Saffron Road? What does that mean to you?
Well, it depends on what my goals were coming in, and that's something that's really important to set, is what the goals are. Typically, after the first couple of years at Saffron Road, it was all about making sure that the right people tried our new products. We knew we weren't going to write orders then, but again, because it's a frozen product, the show became very important for us to get awareness of new products out there. Obviously, other conversations that we had that we couldn't have had pretty much any other way, which is typically what you're going to happen at trade shows, where it's not part of that set appointment where you come in necessarily with the broker and so forth. But to not have any expectations and go into a show and then walk away and say it was great is kind of hard. So I always go in with some pretty specific expectations.
Twee, from the buyer perspective, when you walk away from a show, what makes you go, wow, that was a great show?
I think for me, a show is about reconnecting with brands that I've worked with before as well. So like making sure I'm having those great conversations. That's what leaves me feeling very just inspired to keep coming back to shows. But also innovation is very fun for me. Like going to a show and seeing like, oh, there's new things I've never seen before, something that was really good. I like that. That to me makes a really good show. So great food and great connections are my top two.
Yeah, I think I have to echo that, Twee. Great food, great connections. And as a journalist, it's really exciting to find that scoop, but it's also exciting to find a bunch of brands that you can turn to later down the line or keep following, and you really see that spark that maybe they're not going to have a story right now, but something's coming down the line because this is a brand to watch and feel like you helped discover it or help shepherd them along. I do just want to encourage people, look in the chat. Gretchen put some solid information in. If you had a question about where you can find some more logistical questions you guys had. And with that, I think we're all out of time, but I would mention that if you like this content, and haven't taken part in SFA's Maker Prep program, it is a great way to hear from more experts through classes, through mentoring sessions, through small group chats. Jack is always very excited to talk more Maker Prep. Gretchen also just dropped that into the chat, I believe. So reach out to Jack. or Gretchen, if you have any questions about that, applications are available now. And I guess we should end that with Jack, Twee, how do you like people to get in touch with you?
After the show?
Or right now, if they
Right
watch
now.
this webinar and they're like, this is awesome.
You can find me on LinkedIn for sure. I may not always respond, but I do appreciate the reach out, especially if it's relevant to frozen or refrigerated products.
Jack, how
Yeah,
about
I
you?
would, yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Okay.
LinkedIn is great.
And as Gretchen just noted, education@specialtyfood.com. You know, definitely reach out to that team. Gretchen knows the answers to everything. It's amazing. So if she can't help you, she'll get you to the person who can. And with that, thank you guys so much. I know we're all really excited to see you at the Fancy Food Show in winter. And hopefully this has been helpful, and we'll see you making use of these tips on the show floor.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.